to be closed up for them to heal properly. But how would they do that? Because they didn't have the thread and the needles that we do now to sew those up. Has anybody gotten stitches before?
I got them on my chin.
A lot of
got them on
my goodness. Okay, now if you had been living back then here, this is how they would have closed up your skin. There were beetles that lived in that same area, and they realized from getting bitten by these beetles that they didn't let go after they bit somebody. They actually locked that jaw, and they stayed there until they died. Not so good for the beetle. I don't know why the beetle would do it. But they decided, okay, well, we'll use these beetles and we'll close up these big cuts in our skin if, we've either gotten them in a battle or farming. What did they use when they were farming that might cut them? Plows. Big one, right? So this shows just one beetle, and they'd let it bite and pinch the skin, and once it had bitten and it was on there really well, they actually took the body off and left just the head. It's hard to see, but that's part of the cut here. It's not the body. It's just the head left with the little pincers. So they kept adding them all the way along the cut until the whole cut was closed, and then you're going to walk around with these beetles on your hand or your leg or your foot until it all healed. But you know what? It worked really well. Now that was in India. Now guess what else the person studying this found? In South America, they had a different kind of bug. It's actually a big ant. It's not a beetle, but it's got big cutting. And it would just take all the leaves off the trees. It was so strong and would do this so often. And they decided to do the same thing. They would let that one pinch on their skin and stay there until it cut.
Hurt a lot.
Healed. So, okay. Now, does anybody know what that stone is?
What is it? Geo.
A geode, kind of. You're getting
Geostone.
going on the right track. Do you know what lapis is?
Lapis
Yeah.
lazuli.
Okay, lapis is what color?
Blue.
This one's green, and it's called malachite. And
And
this is made really from copper. So what they found out is that if you grind this up into a powder and put that on a wound, it would keep bacteria from growing and infecting the wound. And I think you're going to recognize what else they did with this. What did they do?
They put
lapis lazuli was used for beads.
In decoration, right? Jewelry. And they liked their makeup, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they used the copper in the makeup too to highlight their eyes. And fortunately for them, what they were doing actually is protecting themselves, because I don't know if you've ever heard anybody say, oh, I got an eye infection from using mascara because bacteria got in the little cosmetic case. Well, they saved themselves from any bacteria getting in their eyes because the copper in the makeup kept it from happening.
Isn't that so called like coal or something? It says the K.
Oh, the coal, K-O-H-L, yes, like a coal pencil. So we're going to talk mostly about the Greeks, though, and Hippocrates was their most famous physician. Does anybody know about him? Has anyone ever heard of him? Anything related to him? The Hippocratic Oath we talk about. Doctors take that oath when they graduate. Actually, the Greeks are the ones who developed swearing to the gods that you would do no harm to your patient. You're going to think first before you did anything and decide on your treatment, and your treatment should not harm your patient. So that was who was responsible for that. So they figured out how to put a drain in and take it out.
a drain.
That's just not right.
It's a cut.
It's a cut. So that's the skin cut open. They put the drain in to where the pus is and let it come on out. So what we're going to do is talk about the stations, and then we're going to go make that one heme, and then you guys are going to rotate on your own. Okay? All right. Now, everybody at a table has something like this at your table, and those are the directions for your station.
Listen.
And you're going to get to do a lot of things. You're going to get
Listen.
to bandage wounds. You're going to get to make your own salve. You're going to get to listen. Auscultate, that's a Greek word that came down to us also. When you go to that table to listen to heart and breath sounds, use the glass first. Okay? Put that on somebody's back. The open end goes on the back. Put your ear on the closed end and have them breathe really loudly.
Like
okay?
this?
And see if you can hear through the glass. Then try to stethoscope and compare and see which one sounds better. And I will tell you, when it gets loud in the room, you're not going to be able to hear really through the glass. But you may have to kind of go off toward the window. There's a clasper, and go ahead and open up that little Tupperware.
That looks weird.
And show everybody what's in there. Now, this is not as scary as it looks. It's just celery.
Okay,
But-
yeah.
Remember how I told you that they like their symmetry? They want likes with likes. Does that, what does that look like?
Guacamole, mustard,
Well, think of bad things in your body that pus, phlegm, pus, really. So they decided if I put this on the outside, there's pus on the inside, the pus is going to go to the pussy thing and follow it. So it was to draw out the infection, which actually, there is a little anti-inflammatory property to it, so it does work. It does kind of pull it. And then this last one that we're going to go make together, this is one of their antibiotic creams. Like, do you guys know, what do you put on your cuts now?
My dad's
So that is an antibiotic cream that also has something in it to help the skin stay nice and soft and heal without a scar, hopefully. So we're going to go make that, and it's white vinegar, honey, salt, and they use sodium carbonate, which I think is limestone. Anybody know for sure? I think. But
so.
again, they were grinding up something they had in their environment, putting it into the mix with what they were making and trying it, and it worked. So I'm going to do that one.
What's this one? Did you talk about this one?
This is the one for burns.
Oh, gotcha.
So when you guys mix this one, let me say this from now because there's zinc oxide, so that's in the tube, and you're going to squeeze, like an inch or a little more into the cup. They used frankincense, you have cloves, and the olive oil. Now, with the olive oil, just a drop or it's going to turn into a liquid mess and it's not going to work. You want it to be pasty, okay? So just a little drop of oil. Why do you think they put something scented? The frankincense.
Smell like.
Yeah, and why would they want it to smell good?
So that people don't think that it's gonna be really bad.
People can be okay with it staying on them for a while.
And for a while, they like pleasant things, and the sad thing is that when the wound gets infected, it's really smelly. So this made it more appealing while you were healing to have this in it. It's kind of gross. And this last one is the red wine to keep the cut clean, and all you're going to do, you're really pretending, is just you're going to scoop a little up, and you can pretend you have a cut and pour it over, but pour over the bowl, okay, so we don't have a huge mess. And then you can bandage your finger. Okay, so let's go make this one. Honey, so it never changes. It's amazing. So let's add some of this. So this is
Baking powder.
baking soda, so sodium bicarbonate for us. And
Wait, is that
I keep learning my lesson because if you put a little too much of everything, this is just salt. They had alum that they used. And
almond salt the same thing?
no, a little different because our salt, our table salt, is sodium chloride. So, okay, now you see it starting to foam?
Yes.
Oh my
gosh, it's like baking soda.
Oh.
So butterbeer. Okay, and look how sticky, it's foamy. And it'll actually stay. And you can see from the other classes that we made it before, it's still there, it's still foamy. So, the other cool thing is it doesn't get hot, really. It gets a little hot, but not very hot. So you could put it straight on if you wanted to, and it sticks where it's going. And then they would wrap it, I'm sure. But it's pleasant, it smells good, it's smooth, it's a little sticky, but it'll stay where you're trying to put it. And it's not a whole lot different looking than Neosporin when you put it on, right?
like
Neosporin gets greasy looking and clear. So same kind of thing. So, yeah, it'll wash off. And actually, I'm going to take this off too, because otherwise it'll just keep doing this. And
it won't
it'll
explode.
foam over, and then we won't be very happy. So, I'll leave it over there.
I will be happy.
So, you guys get to, oh my gosh, and I didn't talk about the worst one, did I? All right, now this other table, you guys can go back to your regular tables and sort it out that way. But this one, okay, this was probably the worst part of a doctor's job back then. What they realized is you could tell a lot of things from your patient by what they're getting rid of from their body naturally. And one of those ways you get rid of things naturally is to go to the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So they figured out that if they tasted their patient's urine, they might be able to figure out what's wrong with them. Right?
Well,
So,
too sweet. So
yeah. So there are two things, and you probably all are talked about this in the hall now, passing each other back and forth, but two common things that could happen to people. One is they get a bladder infection, right, or they have a body infection. Another thing that can happen is they can develop diabetes. Now, who knows about diabetes? What is
If you
that?
have too much sugar, your blood sugar is too high.
Right? Too high? Yep. So you have too much of that in your body, and your body does try to get rid of the extra. So there is sugar coming out in the urine, and they did realize that. And so what they would do is they would take a little sample, and they would only dip their finger in and just touch their tongue and try to figure out which was which. But you guys
How lemonade?
can have lemonade to do this, okay? So no panic.
Thank
And you can decide between the two which one is from diabetes and which one is from an infection. Okay, so just take a little in a cup because you're not going to like it really. Okay, so don't slug a big. If you slug the infected one, you're going to find out what purging means because
Be
what's
careful.
in there is one of the things that they would use in large amount. Not in the amount that's in here, but in large amount to make somebody sick. So go easy on these, okay? I had one person in here really slug the infected one, and they weren't too happy after they did that.
It
I'm not
makes
saying
it
like I have to do that.
Does it really pee?
I'm warning you.
It smells like lemonade.
Okay.
Alright, Lauren, look at this.
Dude, look at Ethan. Ethan, it's supposed to be like this.
Or leave.
That means we need more of this.
Gentlemen, I will only say this once. One little sip of both. One little sip of both.
Dude, it's like salt water.
It's
Salt water.
What is it? I'm like.
Salt water.
So which is which? Diagnose.
That's the infected one. That. No.
No, which disease? Which disease?
Diabetes one is